Welcome to the Hershey Podcast.
Welcome.
We are back.
Finally.
It's been a minute.
Or two.
That's okay, because life. It is
Yes, life.
what it is. I am equal parts excited and hesitant about this episode.
Hesitant. Why?
Because it's like sharing the birth story of our seventh baby. And I want to do it justice and not leave out any details.
That seems appropriate.
Right. Because today we're going to be talking about the Birth Without Fear book and the story behind how it happened. And it definitely feels like the birth of another baby.
Yes. Actually, Birth Without Fear, the judgment-free guide to taking charge of your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
By
January Hershey.
That's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
Did you feel the need to add that detail? Like you just really wanted to drive it?
I really wanted to say it, yeah. I was testing myself, see if I could remember all of it. And
You got it.
it's pretty ingrained in my mind.
Yeah, you nailed it. Well, you did help write the book.
Yeah.
And the book proposal, and we'll get into that. And well, let's just get into it.
And I've read it 3 times, actually.
Yes, front to back.
Front to back.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so proud.
It's good. I can tell you it's the only pregnancy, birth, or postpartum book I've ever read. Because I've tried. I literally have tried, but I can't finish those things.
Really?
But this one's good.
I have read quite a few, and I have finished many. But this is the book that I wish I had had.
Are we biased, or is it really true? I think it's really true.
I think both.
Yeah.
I think both. So as you guys know, the book is out now for pre-order. It does not come out until March 5th. And many people have asked why so long, and that's just the publishing world.
Yep.
They still go at their own pace, and they're a little old school still, which I love, but that is why they have their schedules and the way they do things, and that's just the way it's all playing out. So
Yes, it is. It's exciting.
it is exciting. Okay, so let's tell the story.
All right.
I had taken time off December 2000. You're better with dates than me.
2016.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had looked through emails, responded to ones I needed to, and then took some time off. And we were opening a new chiropractic office in Austin. And we had gotten settled into the office or in January, right?
Yeah. We started things in December, but we really truly started in January.
Right. So we had 2 little offices side by side in a co-work space, and Brandon was doing chiropractic. And of course I was working on Birth Without Fear, and I was going back through my emails in January, and I came across an email from a lady named Colleen who worked with a book agent and wanted to talk to me about writing a book. Well, when I first glanced at this email, I thought it was spam because I get a lot of weird emails, spammy emails from people asking me to do something for them. And so at first glance, I thought it was something like that. But as I read the email, I realized it was more personal. And so I called you into my office and I said, Brandon, I don't know if this is real or not, but if it is, so you looked into the agency and who they were, and you said, this is the real deal.
Yes, because the agent that she worked for, her very first book that she helped get published when she went on her own, I believe, was Morgan Freeman's book.
Yes.
And so I was pretty much sold after seeing that.
So I emailed Colleen back and said, absolutely, I would love to speak with you guys. And we emailed back and forth a little bit, and we set up a Skype call. So Brandon and I and our agent and co-agent at the time, who actually ended up becoming the writer that helped me write this book, did a Skype call. And it was one of those conversations where it was just magic. It was just, the right people all talking together, everyone on the same page. I believe my agent, her name is Stephanie. I believe she said, she asked me, how have you not written a book yet? That's really what I want to know is how have you not written a book, and why are we the ones getting to talk to you about doing this? And I said to her that we've talked about it for the last 8 years since starting Birth Without Fear in 2010. But I've always told Brandon that I'm not going to write a Birth Without Fear book until it's at the right time with the right people, because I'll get one shot to do it and I want it to be the best possible book it can be. And
that is true.
That's what I told you. And in a nutshell, that is exactly what happened. So when we got off the call with them, I actually broke down in tears because I was so overwhelmed with emotion, because everything we talked about in that call, it was honestly everything I had thought about for years. And I felt this overwhelming emotion of when you think and speak and then it manifests, basically. I'm going to get woo-woo for a minute here. And it manifests.
It's law of attraction.
Yeah.
It's real.
And you put in the work, which I have done endlessly. And this all came about at a time where that's exactly what I had been doing. I had done like over 60 events in 2 years. There were so many times during 2016 where I wanted to just walk away and be done with everything. And I didn't. I don't know how I didn't, to be perfectly honest, but I didn't. It was a very, very, very difficult year. And here everything was coming together. It was one of those experiences where you want to just give up, but you don't. You claw your way through the trials and the darkness and up that mountain. And then you don't even see how you're going to get there, but you do. And then you get to the other side and it's like an oasis, and it was one of those types of experiences. So for me personally, this experience with getting this book deal, it's amazing in itself, but for my personal life, it was such a testament of not giving up during one of the hardest times of my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we then had to write a book proposal, right?
Yes.
Now, that is not my jam. Looking up details and numbers and other books in that market, and what we've done with Birth Without Fear, we call it Birth Without Fear et al., which is Take Back Postpartum, Don't Forget Dads, Mothering Without Fear, my personal accounts and things like that. So you did that.
I did.
And go ahead.
Well, I've never written a business proposal, surprisingly, but I did do a book proposal. And it was a lot of research, a lot of work, a lot of writing and editing, and it ended up being 41 pages long.
Yeah, so it was a 41-page book proposal.
Yeah, so our agent gave us some sample book proposals that some of her published authors had used. One was quite a bit longer. One was quite a bit shorter. And so I came somewhere in the middle, but it was about as thorough as I could possibly make it.
Right.
And
and that is what's great about having a really good agent, is she looks at things knowing this is how you should share it. This is how you should word it. This is what you should add. This is what you should take out. And so she has really helped us every single step of this process. And we decided that Colleen, instead of being a co-agent or whatever it's called, I don't know that world that well enough to use probably correct terms. I wanted to hire her as a writer. So yes, we could have sat down and written this book, but I just wanted it to be the best it could possibly be. And her background is, and she has a PhD, right? Yeah. And she's obviously a writer and just a beautiful person. She's an activist, an advocate, all these things that bring just an extra dynamic to the book, and so I love her. She's vegan.
Yes, she is vegan. Yeah.
We bonded over a lot of things and it was really cool. And so anyway, so we hired her as our writer. And so after you had written the book proposal, she took a fine tooth comb through it. And she knows my voice. She's followed Birth Without Fear and me and my message and my platforms for many years. And so it was interesting because when we did this, my grandmother said, well, don't you want to interview other writers? And I told her no, that I could have interviewed 1,000 other writers and still not find anyone that would have been as a perfect fit as the writer that we had, because she knows my voice. She knows my message. She knows the movement, and she felt just as passionate about, this book and this movement as we do. So it really was like a beautiful fit and everything coming together just right. And so she went through it with a, like I said, with a fine tooth comb and turned it into unicorn magic. And then we had this incredible. Yeah. So, and another thing that was really neat was, I've been doing what I do for the last 8 years, and sometimes we don't give ourselves credit, or you experience just self-doubt or imposter syndrome, things like that. So to see everything down in black and white on paper, I was like, I did that, and it was very validating to read and see this book proposal. So what was really neat is at the time that we were going to be presenting this to editors, what you do is our agent gives it to the editors that are in the genre of books. And then if they believe in it or want it, then and this is why the book proposal has to be so amazing, because they get so many, then they can take it to their publisher, and so they have a meeting and they bring it up to the publisher. They need to be able to back up why this is a good idea and they should meet with us. And so that's why this book proposal was so important. But at the time that we were going to present our book proposal to editors, many of them were pregnant, or actually most of them were pretty freshly postpartum.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that, there were so many experiences like this with the coming together or the birth of that fear book that we couldn't have planned. We couldn't have controlled. And it was like the universe was just bringing it all together in this magical puzzle of pieces clicking together into place. So many of the editors had just recently gone through their own birth experiences and their own postpartums. And so it became a very personal thing, which was really beautiful. And so we presented the book proposal, or our agent did, right at the beginning of March, I believe.
Yes.
And I had previously set up a Find Your Village gathering in New York City on March
20th.
I want to say 19th.
19th.
So, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Or 18th.
I set up a Find Your Village gathering, I believe, around March 18th.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. And I had set this up before we knew about any of this coming into play into our lives. So it just so happens that was around the time we were going to be presenting our book proposal to the editors in New York City. And the week before I was going to New York was the London Book Fair. So many of them were out of town. So what ended up happening is they got the book proposal, which our agent, she's amazing, and she was prepping them for it and letting them know it was coming and what was happening. So they were waiting for it. They got the book proposal, and then many of them were out of town and were coming back the weekend that I was flying in for the Find Your Village gathering. So it turned out that I was going to be in New York City right after they all got the book proposal, and right after many of them and the publishers were getting back into town. So it all came together for us to meet with editors and publishers who were interested in the book at the same exact time. So I did the Find Your Village gathering on Friday. I slept on Saturday. You flew in on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then our agent, who lives in Philadelphia, met us in New York City Monday morning. And we met in person with 6 different editors and publishing houses.
Yes.
In New York City.
In New York City.
It was one of the best days of my life. I don't know about you, but
it was pretty awesome that morning to go meet her. We were walking up Fifth Avenue and Broadway, and it was pretty cool. Not going to lie. Yeah.
So, I mean, those of you that have visited or live in New York City, you know exactly how it is. And we were about 2 miles from where we were meeting her because we were meeting with Hay House first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Monday morning traffic. And we realized that taking a cab wouldn't have done us much good, that we could walk it in the same amount of time. Plus we were broke. So I'm like, we might as well save the money. And so I had on a pair of like black slacks and a white blouse and a pink blazer jacket. And I put on tennis shoes. I felt like, working girl in the 1980s. What movie was that? Was that what it was called?
Was it?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't
But
either.
she would like change into her sneakers, but I'm sure a lot of people do that. But it reminds me of movies in the 80s. And we walked the 2 miles, and I realized at one point that everyone was wearing black from like head to toe. And here's this like pink unicorn just with like a extra pep in my step because I was so excited to be having this experience walking down the sidewalk in New York City. So we met her and we had coffee, and we went and got to meet with all of these people. And every experience, every meeting was different. Every meeting was phenomenal and fun and exciting, and we were just so grateful to be there. And it was a blast to run all around New York City with our agent. We walked, we took the subway.
We got to tell who we met with. That's exciting.
Okay, so we met with Hay House.
Hay House was first.
Which I know of Hay House because they published many of Wayne Dyer's books.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Christiane Northrup. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Do they publish her books?
Yeah. Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, it was so neat. It was so neat to sit and meet with them and go over. We met with an editor and assistant editor, was it?
I think so.
Yeah, and so that was our first meeting, which was a good way to get started for the day. Who do we meet with next?
Next, we went to HarperCollins.
Okay, HarperCollins, and we met with two imprints.
So we met first with Harper Wave, which is its own imprint.
Harper Wave was so neat. We met with the editor, the publisher, and was it the marketing director?
Yeah.
Was it 3 or 4 people?
It was 3 people.
Yes. And that was such a fun meeting.
That was a good meeting.
They were a blast, and they were one of my favorites, actually. And it's so neat because when you meet with the editors and the publishers, especially if they know you're meeting with many and there's many people that want your book, they bring out some of their high profile books and they'll put them on the table for your meeting. They had out Cameron Diaz's books, remember?
Yep, I do remember. I was just going to say that actually too.
Yeah, they're her publisher. So that was really cool. And then we met with another imprint in HarperCollins,
we just met with HarperCollins.
Well, it was 2 though. It was Harper Wave and Harper
And I think
One.
it was just Harper One.
Yes.
You're right. Yes, Harper One.
Yeah, and so we met with them next. And what was also neat about meeting with all the different ones is kind of seeing everyone's vision and seeing whose vision aligned with yours and where everyone saw this going and what the book would actually evolve into being. So after we met, then do we have lunch after that?
We then
what did we do after
had
that?
lunch. Yes,
yeah, we had lunch.
We were right down by Wall Street, I believe.
It was so neat. At one point, we walked by some studios.
Oh yeah, well that was later, but yeah,
Okay.
we walked right by NBC.
Yeah,
Caddy corner was Fox.
And Brandon's like, "You're gonna go there. You're gonna go there one day." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, we were walking right by, and it says Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
I was like, "Hey, that's cool."
Yeah, that was really neat. So after lunch, who did we meet with?
Penguin.
Yeah, Penguin Random House.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was surreal because like all of my school books when I was a kid were by Penguin. They're huge. They're massive. We met with one of their editors, and that's the thing about these huge publishing, especially like the big 5 publishers. They're all really big, and then they have like smaller groups and imprints within them that do different genres.
Right.
She was super sweet, the editor we met with, and her assistant.
She was very outgoing.
Yeah, she was wonderful. They were just so sweet. And then who did we meet with after that?
After that, we went to Hachette.
Yes, we did. And
we stopped for coffee though.
Always.
That's
right.
I think we were feeling a little tired for lunch.
That's right. I actually thought this was our last meeting of the day. I thought we had 5 meetings, and it had already been a really full day. And when we met with Hachette, they actually took us into a meeting room, and they brought in their entire team.
Like the entire team.
Yeah, and they were serious.
They meant business.
And the executive editor Michelle, she just saw the vision of the Birth Without Fear book exactly how we did, I think. And we all talked, and it ended up being that the way we all sat, I ended up being at the head of the table, which I didn't plan that. I don't know if they did, but I didn't plan that.
Yeah.
And they were all just so intrigued on the history and the story of Birth Without Fear movement. And I remember saying to them, I know we're all sitting in this room because of Birth Without Fear, and because of pregnancy and birth and how much this message is needed and the change that is needed. But I'm telling you guys, as a mom of 6, what I am the most excited about is the postpartum section we're putting in this book, because we're going to get it into the hands of mothers before they even know or think they need it. And that is going to change just as many lives as the Birth Without Fear part. And it was just, the meeting we had with Hachette was one of the most validating experiences I've ever had as a grown woman, because I had just recently and previously gone through a lot of friendship betrayal and disloyalty and gossip and a really, really hard time in my personal life. And I felt devastated and heartbroken and a lot of other things. And I sat in this room with an entire group of women and Brandon, and they all were there for this. And they all were there for me. And they all wanted to see how they could best support me and the coming of the Birth Without Fear book. And I have to say, I really, truly believe it was that meeting that kept me going since then.
It was amazing.
Instilled a lot of faith back in me. So that was an incredible experience.
And then after that meeting...
So we were leaving.
We were leaving
this incredible meeting, and the publicist was like, oh, Percy Jackson, your kids love that? I'll get you a Percy Jackson book. You know, it was just so neat to see all the books that they do. And we're leaving, you know, chatting as we're going out. And I hear a gentleman say, are you January? And I think he was talking to Stephanie, and Stephanie said, oh no, I'm Stephanie. I'm the agent. This is January. And I turn around and he's looking at artwork, but he's like, oh, I'm actually the publisher for the group. I'm so sorry I couldn't sit in on the meeting. I had another meeting, but I just want to let you know that I am so excited about this book. I'm a dad. I have 4 kids. We didn't have anything like this when my wife was pregnant or having children. And we ended up talking with him for like 5 or 10 minutes in, you know, the outside. Well, I don't know what it was.
It was like their little kitchen.
Kind of.
It looked like that a little bit.
Yeah. And talking to him just about parenthood. We just talked about pregnancy, birth, and parenthood with his publisher. And it was just like, is this happening right now? Like, is this really happening, that this man who is pretty big time publisher is telling me that he is just beyond excited about my book and wants to like be part of this book and this project? Yes, it is happening. Absolutely.
That was very awesome.
Yeah.
It was very
cool.
Neat? Yeah. I thought it was great. I mean, the whole day in general is one of the most amazing days I've ever been a part of. So.
And he was excited about the partner perspective in every chapter too. Yeah. We were all excited about that. So the partner perspective in every single chapter that Brandon wrote is something we're excited about and looking forward to and are very happy about. It just, the book is already just phenomenal, but then that's just another extra in there element to bring people together and to bring families, to bring partners and families together more united, you know, through the process of pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Absolutely, because it's hard to get guys to read those kind of books. Admittedly, I'm one of those guys, but you can read.
And you're an incredibly supportive husband.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And even then, you're like,
those books are just tough to read for a guy, and you know, probably has something to do with the fact that we don't go through it ever, so it's hard to relate. But you can always sit down and read 2 or 3 pages at a time, you know, here and there, which is about what each sidebar is in each chapter. So
cool.
It's doable.
So I thought we were done after this. And Stephanie was like, no, we have one more meeting. I was like, what? So we had one more meeting at the end of the day with Touchstone, which is part of Simon & Schuster, right?
Yes.
And a couple of the ladies on this team actually came to my Find Your Village gathering because 2 of them were pregnant.
Yes.
At the time. Yes. Yeah. So we had that meeting last. And we finished the day having 6 incredible meetings. We analyzed them amongst ourselves with Stephanie. We all picked our favorites or like the best fit. And then we discussed how it would probably go out for bid and that we would talk a little bit more about that. But there was still one other editor that wanted to talk to us.
Yes.
So we had set up a call with them this was Monday. Mm-hmm. So we had a really early flight out Tuesday morning to get back home for the nanny with our kids. And we didn't even know how we were going to make it to the airport. We were that broke, but we did. We made it work, and we got there. And
it was a rough weekend.
Yeah. And it was a rough, amazing, empowering, how did we do this, but we did it weekend. And so we got home on Tuesday, and then we had a call on Wednesday. with...
It was an imprint for Hachette, but they were based out of the San Francisco
They were
area.
smaller imprint.
Berkeley. Actually, I think they were out of Berkeley.
Yeah. And so we had a great conference call with them.
Yeah, that was actually a really great call.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a great call with them. And then 6 out of the 7 decided to bid on the Birth of That Fear book.
Yes.
And so the way it worked was, this is so cool, you guys, but the way it works is one of them bids first at a certain amount, and then all of the others 5 place their bid, and then whoever bid the highest gets the opportunity to bid last the next time, I think, so they can see what everyone else bid. It was something like that.
Yeah.
So it actually went 3 rounds, which is pretty incredible, because you guys have to think, like, I don't have a doctorate behind my name. I haven't written any other books. And here were these 6 publishers, who were bidding on this book, and it went 3 rounds. And it actually came down to my personal 2 favorite. And so the numbers spoke, and Hachette won.
Yes,
and I couldn't be more happy. They are the most supportive team from every single moment, every single part of this process. They have been incredibly helpful, supportive, insightful, validating, just everything. And so I am so happy to be doing this book with them. Then we had to write the book. So this all happened in March.
Yep.
And they wanted the book in September. And I said,
October.
I think it was September. Was it October?
No, it was October.
And I was like, well, guys, I have a couple kids, and we already had our schedule for traveling for the year.
Yes.
And so we asked if it could be December, and they nicely agreed. And so it was really neat to be able to do Skype calls with Colleen, and we would do Skype calls, and she would take notes and then write drafts, and then I'd edit, and we went back and forth. And the whole book is my message, our story, not just mine, but you guys listening, our collective voice. And it was all, like you said, it was an A book, but then bringing on an incredible, brilliant mind, advocate, activist, spirit of a writer just took it to a magic, sparkly unicorn, extra credit place.
Well, she literally took your voice and your words from when you speak at events and just translated them onto pages. Because you guys did countless Skype or FaceTime calls. I can't remember which one. And where you guys would just talk for a couple hours at a time. And then
we would go to email to Google Docs, and we would write back and forth.
Yeah.
And edit back and forth.
Right, yeah. And she would take copious notes while you were talking.
And once a chapter made me cry, I knew we had it. Yeah. I have cried tears over every chapter in this book. And another really great dynamic was, I am a mom of 6 that have had 6 completely different, unique births experiences. And if you haven't heard those birth experiences in person or on podcast yet, the first 4 are on the Birth Hour podcast, and the second, or last 2, I should say, are on our podcast. So they're there, and they're all completely unique. But Colleen is not a mother yet. And I actually feel that brought a really special element to this book, because there might be something that I remember one time we were talking about something, and I just answered her question, and she's like, January, that's actually kind of scary. And I was like, it is? Because to me, it's not. And she said, well, yeah. And so it really helped bring a whole different perspective into the book of, first time moms, or if a mom hasn't had an experience, that we're talking about. And so it was like, I wish you guys could see me, but I'm bringing my fingers together and crossing them through together. It just became this perfect
It was great synergy.
And this perfect relationship to bring the best possible pregnancy, birth, and postpartum book to literally all birthing people.
Well, and it was cool is that you both would think of things that the other wouldn't. So like the example you just gave, that she would think of something that you didn't really pay attention to, and vice versa. She'd bring something up and you would say, well, it's actually, it goes kind of like this.
Right.
And yeah, it was just, it was great the way, you both filled in the gaps with.
Right. And she
things.
actually did a lot of her own schooling and research, and maybe, I can't remember, I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking, but maybe her thesis, but she did a lot of a class she taught, because she was teaching for a while on breastfeeding in our culture and whatnot. So the knowledge that she brought into that chapter was amazing. And then the postpartum chapter, I just sat down and my fingers just flew writing the postpartum chapter, because I'm super passionate about that. And so, this book came together through, the knowledge of our agent, the editors who are parents, the publisher who parents, you as the partner, and dad, our writer, me. And so it brought together so many different, we all have looked at every angle possible for this book, and then we to write about so many different topics, and then to try to hold space for all the different kinds of people that might be experiencing that. Whoo! I'm sure maybe we couldn't have hit everything, of course, but I remember when we were writing the cesarean birth chapter, I told Colleen, okay, we have to write this in a way where it validates the women who are choosing or need to choose a cesarean birth, and for the women who did not want that, and they didn't have a choice, or it was a traumatic birth experience. And so, we had to sit down and really work back and forth to make a cesarean birth chapter that would validate all of those experiences. And I think we did, definitely. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And then, real quick, the VBAC chapter is where I pulled out my soapbox and got a little feisty. Yeah.
There is some signature January feistiness in the VBAC chapter.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's kind of how we went back and forth, in writing the book. And then, of course, after you turn in the manuscript, there's all the editing that happens. And so we did that between December and March.
Yeah. We turned it in December 10th.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of editing went back and forth.
I think we emailed it to our editor at, past 11 p.m. on December 10th.
It is so hard to push the send button, because we had to remind ourselves that there was still the editing process.
Yeah.
And then even when we went through all of the editing, there's many layers of that, you get to the point where you just have to let go. I think every author probably goes through that of, I wish I could have said this or I said that, of course, but you have to remember that this is what was needed. This is what I could say at this time, and I have to be honest. I was worried that I would have self-doubt about the book, because it is such a big thing to talk about and to support people in, but I actually don't have any. I am incredibly proud of this book, and I know that it is going to help so many people, and that it is a collective of my last 15 years as a birthing woman, the last 8 years of Birth Without Fear, and all of our voices and experiences, for those that are in the online spaces that I've met in person at conferences and other events, and I just know that it is what it was supposed to be. I remember in January telling Brandon that all of the elements came together for this book perfectly, and that it almost was as if it couldn't not happen.
Yeah.
It's the right time, it's the right people, it's the right everything. So now we have to wait.
Yeah. What's interesting for me on a personal note is it was such a confirmation of how much on the same page we all were, and just how the energy flowed, because you and Colleen would work on the chapter and I wouldn't read anything about it. We would just talk about what the title of the chapter was and the topic. And so I would write my partner point of view for that chapter, not knowing what you guys wrote. And it fit together seamlessly. It's almost like we had discussed it. And every time we looked at the chapter and then the partner point of view as a whole, it was like, wow, I was pretty blown away by that.
You're also a really good writer. I don't know, people probably don't know that about you, but you're an incredibly good writer, which is why we seriously discussed writing it together and not hiring anyone else to help us. But I knew that I wanted it to be as
I'm not a woman,
perfect
so
as possible. That's true too.
I couldn't give that kind of oomph to it. That
you're not a woman or a birthing person at all, so there's no possibility of that. That being an experience that you would experience, but you have experience being the support person, the partner, the husband, and
that was actually a lot of fun. To work on that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the cover, that's something. So all the words inside are me. But the cover is actually usually up to the publisher. So, of course, they definitely take into account what we do and don't like, but they make...
They have the final say, essentially.
They do, and they basically make some mock-up covers and then give some feedback. And so the cover has been revealed. Unfortunately, it's not unicorn or rainbows. I would have loved that, but I think I'm going to have to save that for another book, a different kind of book. I'm sure there'll be a little bit more on the front cover, probably a quote by, or something by someone. But yeah, so that's close to probably what the final cover will be when the book actually comes out. You guys, the dedication, the acknowledgments, every single section, every single chapter, all the partner stuff. It's just, I'm just so, there's not words. There's not one or two or even three words that can sum up how I feel about this experience in this book. And I just want it in everyone's hands. What I'm really proud of is that, or really grateful for, is that we were able to write a book that you could go to a mother's blessing or a baby shower or work with your coworkers or play group with your play group. And you could hand this book to any single mother or mother-to-be or woman or birthing person or partner or dad, actually.
Yeah.
You could hand it to any, no matter how they were birthing, no matter where they're birthing, and it would be okay for you to gift that book to them. It's not just for one or the other. And isn't that what Birth Without Fear is? It's about options, support, and respect, not, natural birth versus not natural birth. There's no pitting us against each other in the Birth Without Fear community. That's one of the reasons why it grew so much. It did, 7-8 years ago, is because it was a space to share information and then support each other in our choices. And it's really hard to find that, especially amongst women and mothers. There's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of, mommy wars is what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of not even debates, because a debate is intellectual debating and it's more of just nastiness, and I've never understood it and I never will, and so to be able to translate that into a book where it's just, hey, this is for everyone that's going through this experience. You will find something in here for you. Obviously, not all of it will apply to every single person because it can't, but there is definitely something in here for you. And it's very unifying in that way. And our system is broken. We all know this. Our system is broken. And I think that Birth Without Fear is one piece of us all speaking up the way we're speaking up right now and saying, hey, this is a human rights issue, women's rights issue. We need to be heard. Does not have to be so difficult to support people going through these experiences. And the model that we have right now is for some reason that's not happening, and it's creating a lot of trauma, and that doesn't have to happen. And so, I definitely see this book being, of course, in doula bags and midwife offices, but also OBs and OB offices. I know a lot of OBs will love this book. I know a lot of OBs would want their patients, their clients, their moms, their dads to read this book, because the more informed and supported we all are, the better outcomes we have for everyone.
Absolutely.
Involved in the process. So
it might be in a few chiropractic offices too.
It'll definitely be in ours.
One I know of personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can pre-order the book now. Obviously, the better the pre-orders do, the better it is for all of us, the better it is for change. I know it's a little ways out, but you can go to our website, birthwithoutfearblog.com. And there's a bunch of different places you can get it, or you can go straight to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com and pre-order the book, or just the week it's coming out, order it, or 5 and gift it to everyone. But I'm just going to let you guys know that when I walk into Barnes & Noble and see Birth Without Fear book there in the section that is very lacking, I'm going to lose my ever-loving shit, because I'm going to have a book in Barnes & Noble. We are going to have a book in Barnes & Noble. That is just...
My wife's going to have a book in Barnes & Noble.
Our book, and when I say our, I'm talking to you guys listening right now, is going to be in Barnes & Noble. So yeah, I will probably post way too many pictures of that. And I want all of you guys to go to your local Barnes & Nobles to take pictures. And I'm going to annoy the hell out of everyone, and I won't care, because that is exciting and amazing. And I cannot wait. So that is the birth and experience of the Birth Without Fear book. I hope we did it justice. It's
the birth it's the most of the pregnancy of the Birth Without Fear book.
That's true.
March 5th is the due date.
That's actually a good way to put it. Yeah, that is a good way to put it. But yeah, well, I feel like it's overdue. I feel like it's like we're going post dates here.
We're going post dates.
Which I always go post dates. So I guess that makes sense if it's our 7th baby.
It was originally supposed to be a January release date.
That is true.
So, yeah.
That is true. But it changes. But that is now a firm date, March 5th.
March 5th. Tuesday, March 5th, 2019.
I know. And it's coming out in US and Canada. I'm really pushing to get it released in Australia at the same time. I think people internationally that aren't getting it, an actual physical copy, can still order it on their Kindle apps like that. So that's cool. At least it's available in some way. I like to have a book in my hands when I'm reading, I know, but at least it's available in some way until we can get it released everywhere. And I'm I've already put it out there that we'll get to do an audiobook.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I know. I follow Hachette Audio, and I like all their stuff, so they don't forget about me.
Like, there's a January Hershey lady again.
Oh, they're so awesome. They've really been amazing. So.
The thing to keep in mind about this book is it's, you've been carrying the torch for, going on 9 years soon.
Right.
And you've said so much, you've done so much, you've gone all over the world, actually, at this point, because you've been in Australia now. Mm-hmm. And this book is essentially like the magnum opus for Birth Without Fear. It's like everything that you could ever say to anyone ever over these past years is right there in that book. And it is really comprehensive.
I remember telling Colleen, I feel like we're getting the opportunity to filter everything over the last many years, decades of my experiences and everyone else's experiences and Birth Without Fear. We're getting to filter it all with love, and then filter it all down and put it into a book. And that I started a while ago using #love as my filter. So that's exactly what we did with this book. Absolutely. We've taken everything, we filtered it with love, and put it into a book.
It's going to be great.
It is great.
It is great.
It's wonderful.
It's really good.
And next year, any events we do, the book will be part of the tickets and the event, and I'll get to sign them, which is so cool. It's so neat. We'll be doing a big book signing party here in Arizona as well. So it'll be fun to share all those, and just keep your eye out for if I'm coming anywhere near you for either an event that we're putting on or a book signing that's being put on. That's going to be really, really neat.
Absolutely.
I know.
So pre-order your copy today.
You should do the Moviefone
link
voice.
In bio.
You should do the movie. Can you do the Moviefone voice? Before there was, many computers in our hands with apps and the Google, you had to actually call in a number to get the Moviefone times if you didn't have it in the paper.
Pre-order your copy of Birth Without Fear today.
Yes. All right, you guys. We love you.
Adios.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.